Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Am I audible nicely?
Yes, sir, you're audible. How about me?
Yeah, you're audible. Okay, so Ankha, congratulations again, right? And I know you have been,
Yeah.
have been quite a long journey. Now, in this interview, again, the same thing happened, right? I will ask you to go in detail. How did you study individual subjects? And little bit, with regard to your journey, right? So if there's any student which is in your condition, right? So they will be sort of getting kind of benefit from it. Okay. So that is the whole structure.
Sir, sure.
Okay,
Sure, sir.
so Ankha, first tell me about yourself.
Sir, my name is Ankha K Vijay. I come from Kerala. I have done my graduation in law from the National University of Advanced Legal Studies in Kochi.
Okay.
And this was my fifth attempt at the civil service examination. And it was also my second interview. And regarding my journey with law optional, I would say
Yeah, I will
that
ask you the
it has
question.
not been an easy one. Yes, sir.
I know. I will go in detail, not to. Okay, first,
Yes,
then tell me, one very interesting thing is that suppose, it is almost 5 years that you told me, right? But effectively it becomes six,
yes,
right?
sir,
Because
friends.
you keep on preparing even when, you don't have results. So
Yes,
how, sometime
yes,
you might have felt like, I think last to last year, if I remember correctly, you told me, sir, I no longer want to prepare some sort of thing, right? Again, you came back and said that, no, I will prepare. So, I mean, what kept you going? I mean, there are a lot of students which is stuck in the loop, right? So any message or any sort of motivation for them?
so you're right. There are plenty of times when I felt dejected. I thought I wouldn't be able to score well for law. I should give up and rather focus on my legal profession. Many times when I felt that. But I think after a point of time, when you have an idea or a vision in front of you, you get over these rejections and move ahead. So for me, what actually helped was that as far as possible, I try to keep a routine on things that I should do so that I don't fall into this loop of negativity and I would say negative feelings. So I would try to do some things productive, reading or anything non-UPSC related. I would try to work out at the gym. I also do yoga actively. So such co-curricular activities as well as be productive in perhaps in a non-UPSC way, doing other things helped me come back to this later. I think I was of friends who supported me. So all those factors helped me move on despite facing failures many times.
Okay, right. So your friend support as well as you are doing things which are not UPSC, right? So you're not totally, stuck in that zone all the time, right? So that
Yes,
helps.
sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, how about constitutional law? How did you prepare for that?
Sir, for constitutional law, I think what is most important is to have good conceptual clarity.
Hmm.
One, on the text of the Constitution. Second, on the philosophy behind everything. For instance, when you have the nature of the Constitution, it is important to know what secularism is, how it is applied in the Indian context, and have an idea behind the spirit of everything, sir. So that
Rational part.
basic understanding plus, yes, sir, good knowledge of why the Constitution is that way and the importance that it holds, that can help you write a good answer for constitutional law.
Uh,
And my preparation was to have one book, Dukhi or any other book, keep the sources very limited, and then try to practice answer writing as far as possible.
okay. So books, you are saying that you use Duki or any other or your graduation books.
Sir, I refer to Dukhi, A.K. Jain's Dukhi. And for certain topics, I try to do it more extensively from MB Jain or any other standard book, depending on my text. For instance, some topics like fundamental rights, federalism, those that required more of a little bit of extensive understanding, I try to refer to other sources. But I feel that it is very important to keep the sources very limited and keep it suited to the needs of this examination.
That is actually quite important, keeping the source very limited, right? So if the candidate understand that
Yes, sir, absolutely.
50%, 30% is done, right?
Absolutely.
To understand. Okay.
Absolutely, sir.
What about international law? How did you prepare for that?
Sir, international law, again, there are two types of topics. There are static topics that you can learn from books. The book which I referred is S.K. Kapoor's Natural International Law to prepare the basic topics like definition, theories, treaties, etc. Then, towards the later part of the paper, you have a number of dynamic topics. You have environment law, you have aspects like WTO, UNO, that cannot be prepared single-handedly from a single book. So there, my attempt was to look at what has been asked in the past and prepare notes for these accordingly. I refer to sources in the internet, but there again, the previous year questions were my center. Those were my core for the preparation. And then I would rely on a basic internet search, and also make sure that I had sufficient legal authorities in support of each topics. But more or less, the idea is to look at what the exam wants. Because when you go researching in the internet, there is always a tendency to go overboard and look at a number of sources. So that shouldn't happen. Focus has to be on fulfilling the needs of the exam.
Okay. In fact, I could see in your answers, because I think almost for 2-3 years I have been seeing an answer, right? So I think,
Yes.
I mean, you used to write too much in the first text, right? I used to comment also, right? Too much, cut it, this
Yes,
paragraph
sir.
not needed, this paragraph not needed, right? So I think,
So that was because you're right about it. I thought that you get more marks when you write more content, but that is not so.
that is not.
What you need is good presentation, the right amount of content, just enough legal authorities. That is it.
You need right amount of structure and presentation. That is the key.
Yes, absolutely.
What about, let us to, I'm sorry, paper 2. What about law of crime? How did you study that?
Sir, law of crimes, I relied on one standard book. I used VSI Pillai selectively. And the focus was on doing the bare act, the sections and the ingredients of the provision very clearly. I think more or less, if you do the sections and the basic, components of the provision itself, the syllabus gets done. And of course, some leading case laws also to supplement it. That's it.
Sometimes they try to ask philosophical question, right? Like plea bargaining is the vanishing point of jurisprudence, right?
Yes, sir.
Those sort of
Yes,
questions
sir. That is
sometimes
also there. So for that, I think the solution is to make sure that you cover the syllabus and the PYQs really extensively. Because even when there is a topic, say death penalty as a punishment, it might be important to cover the penological aspect of it also, rather than simply relying on case laws and legal provisions. It might be important to understand why this debate is there. That philosophical aspect can be relevant in certain topics. So that again, you can understand if you have a look at the previous year questions.
Okay. So how about law of tort? How did you do that? Considered easy, but still, right? How did you do it?
Law of Torts, again, a single book. PSI Pillai was the book which I referred to. I made notes from it for each topic. And Torts is comparatively easy because I thought the syllabus is really well defined and there are not so many of current events that you have to add. So basic, keep it simple. Refer to one book, prepare the notes from the syllabus. And sometimes like one or two questions they do ask from outside the syllabus that's strictly not there. So be prepared for such questions also by referring to the previous questions. So more or less, one, covering the syllabus, and two, previous year questions. It's the same. I feel this is a similar approach to across the papers, cutting across subjects, previous year questions, plus the syllabus.
Okay. So, and what about CLD? Because obviously it consists of a lot of topics, which is a syllabus in itself. Right? So how did you do that?
Sir, CLD was a little bit tricky. Because as you're saying, it's really extensive and there is no way you can complete all the topics, be it IPR or competition law or IT law. So there, so you had sent me some material on CLD. I referred to it because I thought that was really helpful for the last moment revision and reference. But basically, my strategy was to look at the basic statutes that are there in these, be it, for instance, if it is IPR, at least the very just the very simple questions for Patents Act, perhaps the definition of patents and the conditions of patentability, the simple things that have been asked in the past. Then again, for environment law and all, questions that are asked, you get to see a repetition of themes. For instance, development of environment codes, NGT has been asked, principles of environment law, public trust doctrine. So such ideas are repeated. So once you get a hang of what has been asked in the past, it becomes easy to prepare. But again, for CLD one, something which I felt is important is that you shouldn't overdo it, because it is you can prepare a PhD on competition law, but that is not what you want. In the exam, we have to be realistic. What you get is maybe one question on competition. Okay, so we should be ready to answer that question and have good material that can be used to multiple questions. For competition law, for instance, for instance, the Raghavan committee report, it can be used in multiple answers.
Multiple.
So such an approach to CLD can be clever, I think, considering the extensive nature of the topic. If you are clever, if you pick up sources that can be cited in multiple ways, it will be useful.
I think in GS paper also some of them can be cited, right? If the questions is like that.
Yes, sir, definitely.
What about contract law specifically, that a special contract, this law of partnership or sales of goods act, how did you handle that?
Sir, general contract, the Contract Act, I used the BEAR Act and I referred to the small version of Avatar to supplement the important topics. And for me, the mercantile law part was very tricky because I always had difficulty, understanding and remembering the concepts in mercantile law, partnership law, NI Act, and all. I personally found it difficult. So for that, I wanted to give a little bit of extra focus. So what I did is I made very short notes, meaning just the section number and the basic provisions, so that I can read them repeatedly and come to memory. So for this part, for mercantile law, my strategy was a bit personalized because I realized that that was a weak link for me in the second paper. My thoughts and law of crimes was relatively strong. So I had a little bit of extra focus on this area.
And any online sources, material or any website that you would like to advise is very helpful.
Sir, live law updates I used to follow when there are relevant articles. Sometimes you get good articles that have yes, it is also there. But there again, I really kept my sources very minimum, sir, because I didn't want to go very extensive on online sources. So I kept it minimum, but the Hindu also sometimes you get really good articles on referring to legal jurisprudence. Even Indian Express also sometimes you get.
Explainer, I think it is explainer is very nice, right? Sometimes.
Yes, sir. Very well, and very simple. And in Sunsets TV also there is a particular program that deals with new laws. So sometimes I'm not able to recollect the title of the program, but largely to keep my law preparation in tune with current affairs, I used to anyway we read current affairs for GS. So whenever we come across subjects that are relevant in polity like election commission, federalism, secularism, human rights. So I would try to look at how we can use it for my law paper. Sometimes it could be that a jurist is cited in a particular editorial in the Hindu. I could use that as an introduction for my law paper answer. Similarly, a case law on QA to petition. Once I remember it appeared in a box in the Hindu. So that can be used as a case law for my law answer. So such an integrated approach I try to follow as far as possible, both for online and offline current affairs.
And how much time did you take to complete the whole syllabus? Ideally, how much time do you think aspirant needs?
I don't know exactly. Sir, it depends, I think, because you'll have to balance it with your GS preparation also. But law for one, it is a wide subject. It is quite extensive by itself. So you will have to denote sufficient time to it. And when preparing, I think it is important to prioritize papers, to look at from where you are getting more questions and study accordingly. But on the whole, if you ask me to give a timeline, I would say that perhaps in 6 months, you can easily finish, sir. 5 months, 6 months, you'll be able to finish. Particularly if you have a background in law, it will be doable in lesser time also. But if you're looking at a new person taking up law as a new subject, it might take a little bit more time. But then 5-6 months, definitely you can complete.
Okay. So when did you, just wondering, this thing I think we have not talked about. When did you started actually preparing for the UPSC?
Sir, 2019, sir, 2018, 19, 20, yeah, 2018, I would say 2018 towards the end was when I started the preparation. 2019, I gave my first prelims.
Okay, okay. So that 20, I think 2021 Corona, right? And then only you renewed your effort, I suppose.
So no, actually, during my second attempt happened during that, just before that Corona time. I was actually preparing effectively for all the attempts. I wouldn't say that there was any laxity in the preparation. But my second attempt and my fourth attempt, what actually helped me down was my law score. I was stuck at 230s for my law papers. I couldn't, increase my marks even in my second mains. So I had to really work on my approach to the paper. It was not that I had a knowledge lacking in the subject. It was that my approach was not in tune with the UPSC.
You used to write college style, too much content, write everything, whatever you know about the topic, right?
Yes, that was the main problem. Content was somehow that I wasn't getting the idea of. I think that is what getting the approach of.
And what about interview, Ankha? I mean, you also got very decent score in interview. What are the major questions that they ask in interview?
So interview, I got a diverse set of questions. It ranged from judicial activism, is it happening, is it a reality in our country, to how women are more impacted by climate change. Then there was a question on whether elections can be held in a fully digital manner. Do you see a future in that? Then I got a question on cybercrime, darknet, very random questions, a couple of questions on the law side. I got a question on how do you handle the stray dog menace. So
Oh.
questions were really diverse, but sometimes the board members did ask me follow-up questions on a particular answer which I had given earlier. So that was a general pattern, but very diverse questions. And I don't know, like members they were all, this was a very professional but friendly conversation.
No, I have
It was
observed
a
that,
very enriching experience, a really good
uh,
experience.
I have seen that the candidates who had their interview mostly based on law, they got better marks. Almost 200 is the average in the law. Right? I don't think any other optional people have that. Right? That list that I have sent, you must have seen it, right? So all of them, 200,
Yes, yes.
210, 204, right? So a lot of people in 200s. Okay.
So I just got one question actually, law question, which I got. All the other questions were current affairs
Non-law.
or one or two questions based on my DAF.
Oh. So Ankha, again, last question I will going to ask is that
Yes, sir.
there are people, right? Sort of an emotional question, right? There are people who are stuck in the zone, right? And they sometimes feel like leaving it, right, and going for litigation, because as a lawyer we have this option, right? Always this option is open, because that
Yes,
option
sir.
is
Yes.
sometimes not available to other subject graduates. So this is the one option available
Yes.
to us. Apart from MBBS and engineering, obviously they also have that option.
Yes.
So obviously you practiced. I mean, you thought of going to litigation, but why did you not leave? And I mean, what message do you want to give them, right? Whether they should leave preparation and go to the litigation, or they should keep on trying. I mean, the practical assessment.
Sir, I think it is just one thing, personal choice, sir. Just personal choice, because all of us are differently placed. One general answer, it wouldn't do for everyone. It is all of us should assess ourselves, what our situation is, and then decide. For me, I did practice, and I was presently I'm practicing in Trivandrum District Court. So I like after my two attempts, I joined an office, and I had already told them that I'm practicing. So my sir was kind enough to let me enough time to study. He was completely free when I asked him leave to prepare for the exam. So I would say that we should be realistic in assessing our own situation, and then uh, perhaps after some time, after giving two attempts, you can balance. It is easier to balance work and studies. So it is ultimately personal choice. I think it wouldn't be right
Family
for me to
background also
comment
is
on how.
important, right? What is your economic condition? There is a lot of variability comes in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Entirely. A lot of Plus the mindset is also an issue, because when you prepare for this exam for a long time, you find the gap between you and the legal profession. It is really difficult to appear before the court after a number of after say a few months of gap. So that practical thing is also there. But ultimately, if you want to prepare for the exam, I think you will find a way to prepare. You will perhaps assess your situation correctly and find the right strategy and move on.
This time, because I saw, right, there are a lot of people, right, they were in some job or other, right, like you were practicing. There was one more student, I think Aditya, he was practicing, right. Similarly, there were 2, 3 people who were in that legal job through LLM that we get, right, that CLAT one. So there are some of them, right. So while doing some job, they actually prepare, right. So this time I saw a lot of people, right, doing job and then they prepare. So you're
Yes,
very,
it is.
you can
It is.
you can have a balance. You can have a balance. Okay, Anka, so that will end our discussion and thank you very much. And when are you coming
It
to?
was nice for so to talk to you.